Okay, this is an interesting chapter. Lots of interesting things to say about this chapter. I think I'm going to do something a little bit unusual and start on the last verse first. If you want to understand what's going on in this chapter, let's just read the very last verse of the chapter. John chapter 2, and the last verse says this. He needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. What this chapter is all about hinges on the fact that Jesus knows what's inside of man. He knows what's in men. And before we comment on all the things he did in this chapter, let's just dwell on that for a moment. Jesus knows what, and of course when it says man, it's the generic, it means mankind. It means all of us, men and women. Jesus knows what's on the inside of human beings. And the fact of the matter is, you see, this is what's on the inside is the most important thing to God and the most important thing to Jesus. Not what you do on the outside, but what is true on the inside. This is why it's not good enough just to do what the Pharisees did and change people's behavior and preach change of outward actions. In fact, let's just hold our finger there in John. Go back to Matthew. Let's just see something he said to the Pharisees in Matthew chapter 20. Where am I? 23, I think. Matthew 23, verse 25. Notice this little thought here. Let's remind ourselves before we read this who the Pharisees were. The Pharisees were those people in Jesus' day. We saw them with the fancy outfits on and the clothing representing the fact that they were somebody in authority and received honor from men. The Pharisees were the people who prided themselves in keeping all the rules and doing everything. At least outwardly, you would say that these guys are the holy men, the holy ones of God, these Pharisees, because they, as far as men could see, were keeping all the rules and doing everything right. But look at what remember, Jesus knows what's in man. Look at what he says in verse 25. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. It's very interesting that he calls them hypocrites. You know what a hypocrite is? A hypocrite is a person who appears one way on the outside, but on the inside there's something totally different. For you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. He said, and in fact he gave them credit for this, he said, you have made clean the outside. What does he mean by that? By using the metaphor of a cup. He said, you have, with your behavior and changing your actions, you have made an appearance of being clean on the outside. But Jesus, who knows what's in man, he said, I know what's in your heart. On the inside, you're full of extortion and excess. Verse 26, thou blind Pharisee, notice these words please. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and the platter, and that the outside of them may be clean also. Did you hear that? Cleanse first that which is within. Then the outside will also be clean. Cleanse first that which is within. So when Jesus comes along, what do you think he's going to do? Think he's going to come along preaching change your behavior, change your actions? No, he says, change first that which is within. Now, the problem with that is, you and I want to burst your bubble, you and I can't do that. The problem with that is when he says, change first that which is within. What is it that's within? Well, what's within is who you are by nature, who in your spirit, on the inside. And listen, people cannot change. Have you ever heard the saying that a leopard can't change its spots? Anybody ever heard that saying before? What is that little parable? What does that little saying mean? Well, a leopard can't change his spots, meaning he can't change who he is. I tell this story sometimes, and it's not original with me. Hardly any of my stories are original with me, unless it's things I've happened to me. But I'm like John Osteen. He said, whenever I hear a good story, I just tell it myself. Now it's mine. But I've heard this before. But if a farmer had a dirty, stinking pig, we have those in Oklahoma, Dominic. We have pigs here. If a farmer had a pig, and pigs, they're dirty. I don't know if you've ever seen pigs or not. They're dirty animals, and what they eat is even worse than where they live. And they live in a messy environment, and they're dirty, and they smell bad, and they eat things that smell worse than that. And so the farmer, let's just say the farmer, one day he has a change of attitude about it. He says, this pig, he's dirty, man, and I need to change things. I don't want a dirty, stinking animal that's a mess. I need to change this thing. And so he gets the pig. I know what I need. I need a pretty, beautiful house cat, because cats are very clean. They're always cleaning themselves. Isn't that right, Paul? They're always cleaning. That's right. Thank you. Got an expert witness here. Paul's got cats. We used to have cats. Now we have kids. Anyway, he says, I don't like my pig, I'm going to have a house cat. So he brings the pig into the house, puts him into the bathtub, and he begins to scrub and scrub and scrub. And he cleans the pig and cleans the pig. And finally the pig is all clean. And now he ties a little ribbon in his hair and sprays his wife's perfume on the pig. And now he says, now I have a house cat. No, but guess what? He doesn't have a house cat, does he? Right? He still has a pig, but he's cleaned it up on the outside. Because the first time he leaves the screen door open, the pig is going to run right back out to the slop again, because by nature he is a pig. And no amount of reform or change or scrubbing of the outsides can change what's on the inside. Am I right? You understand what I'm saying? And I like that story. It makes a good point, doesn't it? I used to tell that all the time at BJCC on our Sunday night services. There was a young man, let's see, I'll think of his name as soon as I don't need to. He's from Guyman, and he came to all of our services and really liked everything. And Fabian Larson is his name. And he liked that story about the pig, and he used to come to our services. Anyway, he got released and went back home to Guyman. And when he got home, he cut off all of his old friends that he used to go and party with. And they came around as soon as they found out he was home and wanted him to go party with them. And he wouldn't go. He just cut them off. He said, I'm going to go to church and make some new friends. And that was wise. That was very smart of him to do that. And so he cut off all these. Well, they were mad at him and you know, they said bad things about him. But he went to church, made some new friends. Well, after a while, one of his old friends, who happened to be a truck driver, came by his house. And this man came and knocked on the door. And Fabian came out and he said, I know that something has changed in your life. I can tell you are different. You are not who you used to be. And this man then began to weep. And he said, whatever you have, I want it. I need it too. You see, he recognized that there was a real change had happened in Fabian's life. So he said, I don't know what it is. I don't understand it. But whatever you have, I need it too. So Fabian, he called me on the phone and told me this. That's how I know this happened. He was telling me, recounting this to me on the phone. So he said, I got up in the cab of the truck with this man. And I didn't know much, but I knew the things I'd heard you say at BJCC, so I began to tell him, and I told him, to make the point, I told him that story about the pig, and how you can't clean it up, but Jesus will come into your heart, and He will clean up your life from the inside out, and He will make you different, and He will change you on the inside, and all you need to do is just receive Jesus into your life, and when Jesus comes into your life, He will change all the things that you can't change, and He'll make you be a different person. He's the one that made me be a different person, and I told him that story, and the guy says, that's good. That's what I want. So I said, I just prayed a little simple prayer with this man, and he invited Jesus to come into his heart. And then Fabian told me on the phone after that, when we said amen, I suddenly thought, I don't know what to say now. Now I don't know what else to say. And so I was at a loss for words. So I said to the man, well, praise God, brother, you're not a pig anymore. You know? And he told me that on the phone. And I said, well, that's good, Fabian. That's good. I applaud that. Because now he's not who he used to be. So the point of this chapter 2 in John is, the last verse says, He needed not that any should testify of man, for He knew what was in man. Now this is a great point, because Jesus knows what's in man. And He also knows that mankind cannot change themselves. He also knows that we can't make the changes in our life that need to be made. So what He does is He takes it upon Himself to come into our lives and make those changes.